Hi guys, it's Marc Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, also known as Marc Zicree of Space Command, and it's a lazy, sunny day in Southern California, and it's nice to have the blue skies after the gray skies of London, even though I do love London. Waiting to hear back from Netflix on Space Command and the BBC and all these other companies on the various things we talked about. It's really exciting. It's an exciting time, and if you want to buy shares in Space Command, you can get in touch with me, and if you want to watch the first hour of Space Command, it's here on Mr. Sci-Fi, and we're up to over 80,000 hits in just a few days, and I think it's going to keep going, which is good, because if we hit 1 million, that is significant for a network, so because we already have a built-in audience. So, but what I'm here to talk about right now is I watched episode 2 of season 2 of Star Trek Discovery, and it's an episode called New Eden, and there's various things to talk about. Part of it is they seem to be kind of splitting the difference now, where going between sort of an arc story that covers the entire season, like with these mysterious beams and this angel and all that stuff. And by the way, spoilers, watch this only if you've watched the episode. But also they have sort of like an episode where you find somebody and you help them out or fail to help them out, and then move on. So New Eden, let's see where to start. Well, clearly the show is not as dark as it had been on the first season. That's, I'm sure, a deliberate aesthetic choice. But the episodes are still funky. Now, some fans have reminded me that the original Star Trek: The Next Generation took about a season to get its feet under it, and so they're saying, well, Star Trek Discovery, give it time, which is fair, absolutely fair. And though the original Star Trek was great right out of the gate, just an amazing, amazing show, phenomenal. But let's see, well, just to start, New Eden is not the worst Star Trek episode with Eden in the title. That would be The Way to Eden, which is an original Star Trek episode for the original series that was basically, it's also known as the hippie episode. Hippies take over the Enterprise, and they're trying to find Eden, and it had songs in it, and I was a kid when I saw it, so I know all those songs. If you were playing that episode for me now, I could sing along with these songs of questionable merit, and it's a pretty awful episode in its way, but there are several things that make that one distinctive. One is that originally it went through a number of rewrites and a number of changes, and originally the episode was going to have Dr. McCoy's daughter in it. She was going to be one of the space hippies, and it would have established that he was a widower and he had a grown daughter, and D.C. Fontana was writing that, and it didn't get to the final draft. Ultimately, they took that element out. And in the future parlance of the space hippies, if someone's sort of, an establishment dude, or a pejorative phrase they use is Herbert, that was an in-joke because Herb Solow was their executive with Paramount, and so they were kind of, giving a little nod or thumbing their noses at him. But anyway, so but if you watch it, it's fun and goofy and of its time, and it has Skip Homier in it, who played a young Nazi in a very famous movie and grew up to be a space hippie in this Star Trek episode. But now we jump over from 1968 or so to 2019, and now we have the New Eden, an episode of Star Trek Discovery. Well, it's goofy in many, many ways. Let's see. Here's the major problem I have with this episode. Captain Pike and Michael beam down to a planet, and it's basically an Amish kind of community. First of all, they've stitched together all these different texts from different religious followings, Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Islam, into one major text, which is very dubious right on the face of it that people would do that because that wouldn't be, if you believe in the Bible, you're not going to say, let's cut up the Bible and put in Islam. Or if you believe in Islam, you're not going to say, let's cut up, the Quran and stick in text from Buddhism. It's so, right there, it's kind of really a little bit questionable. But the big thing that really had me kind of shaking my head was, so this is a group, as I understand it, this is a group of people who were kidnapped by an alien on the eve of World War III on Earth and taken to this planet, and they no longer have electricity, and it's been a couple hundred years, and they are stuck there. And the Discovery gets a beacon, and they use the mushroom drive again, questionable mushroom drive, to get to this planet, and it's got a ring around it, and the ring is radioactive, and it's going to destroy the people on the planet without their knowing. Okay, well, that's okay-ish, but then the problem is that Michael says, well, we should tell these guys who we are and we should rescue them and take them back to Earth. And Captain Pike says, no, it's in violation of General Order 1, which I think is the Prime Directive. I believe that's the Prime Directive. And that's ridiculous because the Prime Directive is if you come upon an existing society that's pre-warp, you don't reveal yourselves. But that's not the case here. This is people from their own planet who were abducted by an alien. That wasn't a natural development of their culture. They aren't a freestanding culture that's developed on its own. They're essentially abducted humans. And so, I mean, for instance, in the original Star Trek Space Seed, where they find a sleeper ship with Khan and his followers aboard it, they take them aboard the Enterprise, even though that's, ostensibly, we would think a pre-warp culture, perhaps, or maybe they had warp, God knows. I guess they did. It all gets kind of jumbled. But the point being, they didn't say, well, these are people from Earth's past, so we can't let them know that we exist. And then there's the guy who wants to go with them, of course, and they don't let him go with them, and it's just kind of like, the viewers are saying, boy, if a starship appeared in my world, I'd want to go with those guys. I wouldn't want them to say, oh, gee, you got to stay with your 97 Corolla, because even though we've got warp drive, we're not going to share it with you. It's, so anyway, so it was just kind of funky. And then there was all this technobabble, and, there's good technobabble and there's bad technobabble. And so here's the thing. Okay, so they say, okay, we've got to save these people from this ring where the radioactive stuff is going to rain down on their planet and kill them all. So they've taken aboard an asteroid, a big chunk of dark matter, and they surmise that its greater mass will draw the radioactive chunks of ring debris away from the planet. Now, I guess they must have had some kind of mass dampener when they took the thing onto the Discovery, because obviously if it has a greater mass and mass enough to pull a ring system apart and pull it away, it would have to interact with the ship. But then mass dampeners, what the hell is that? So it's just magical technobabble to get a plot to work. And so it's just, maybe the show's getting better, I don't know, but it was a very, very funky kind of episode, and it was we'll see where it goes, but and it's funny because there's entertaining bad and there's like boring bad, and for me this one was kind of boring bad, whereas The Way to Eden is entertaining bad. So if you have a choice of which Star Trek episode to watch with the name Eden in it, you might want to look up that first Star Trek episode, The Way to Eden. And we'll see where they're going. They're going to be... Oh, and they also revealed that Spock is not missing, because Pike knew that he's committed himself to a mental institution because he had space depression or whatever. So, okay. And again, Spock commits himself to a mental institution. Saying, again, this gets into the Luke Skywalker problem, which is that you've got a character who's established for many decades, who fans love, and you're trying to do something with him that isn't just what's been done before. But the problem is that if you're not careful, you're going to do something with him that is a violation of everything that's gone before. And that's what, of course, they did with Luke Skywalker, where it's like, look, this guy's always been brave, he's always been tough, he's always been smart and resourceful. He refused to go into the dark side with his dad, and lost a hand, and now here he is just kind of like, well, I'll throw my lightsaber away, and I'll, just kind of be mopey for the better part of 2 hours, and then kind of like, project myself to another planet and then vanish into, death? Jedi death. And it was like, oh man, these are all the wrong choices. And you really wanted to say to Mark Hamill, who hugely disagreed with that interpretation, hey, listen, why don't we raise the money to make the kind of Luke Skywalker movie that we all want to see and you want to star in, and just kind of do it as a fan film? And, but of course that won't fly with Disney, I'm sure, and all of that, but it's like you have a sense of, boy, they really screwed that one up. And now with Spock, we'll see where Spock's going to go. It's being played apparently by Gregory Peck's grandson, and Gregory Peck was a wonderful actor, and this guy's probably a wonderful actor, and maybe they've got a plan that'll work and not pissed everybody off, but we'll see. Anyway, it's just a TV show. So, but at its best, Star Trek is a lot more than that, and that's what we're all hoping for. We want to be inspired. We want to be moved. We want to be taken down roads of intellectual discourse that we hadn't thought of before. That's what the original did. That's what Star Trek The Next Generation did, and Deep Space Nine with episodes like Far Beyond the Stars, which I came up with. Very much was that. So we'll see. And in the near future, I'll start watching the Orville again and chime in about that. I've been hearing that it's, better than Star Trek Discovery, and the episodes I saw, I think you would probably say that it is. And if you want to watch Space Command and see a third alternative on this kind of show, it's my favorite of the three, but of course I'm biased. But you can watch the first hour on Mr. Sci-Fi, and we'll hear back from Netflix shortly, and hopefully they'll say yes and buy a season or two. So we shall see. But meantime, we're going to be continuing to raise money and continuing to shoot and move forward on all of this. And so I guess that's about it. We'll talk soon. Thanks for everything. Check out the Space Command store and the Space Command movie. It's spacecommandseries.com is our website. You can watch a lot of stuff relating to Space Command on Mr. Sci-Fi. Subscribe to Mr. Sci-Fi. If you want to buy a share in Space Command, contact me, marczicree@gmail.com. And if you want to throw some bucks our way on Patreon, it's Marc Zicree on Patreon. And that helps a lot. So that's about it for now. We'll talk soon. It's a lovely warm Sunday, and I am going to just kick back and enjoy myself with Elaine and the dogs. So thanks a lot, guys. Talk soon. Bye-bye.